Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about important factors when considering an energy upgrade to your historic or vintage home here in the Northwest. Moving on in the future, knowing what you know about all this really in-depth house science, engineering, as we move on to the future of humanity, can we make modern buildings last hundreds of years? Is there a lifespan with modern buildings, and what can we do to improve from where we're at right now?
Yeah, such an interesting comment, because will things change moving forward? We obviously have the knowledge, the skill, the engineering to make buildings last for 200 years. Is that what we want? Will be interesting. Maybe the generation that says what I'd like to do is to buy a house and trade parts. Maybe that's the house that'll come up. We look at things with ADUs. You know, we have the house that I've redone the garage so that I can rent that house out. So there's a lot of uses that have changed. I think we'll see houses. We've always thought this would be the case, that would get a little smaller because we find out that we don't need as much house. But we're watching the national numbers stay pretty much the same, that we're not seeing a reduction in square footage. But I would say that there's going to be factory crafted houses. The Japanese have done a lot of this, the Europeans have done this, where we might see a house get built in a factory. So instead of on a construction site, what if we put the pieces together in modules? So modular construction has been happening in Japan for 25 years. I could pick my house, it would come in pieces, and it would be constructed in a factory in a very conditioned environment with people that were, had lunches and a place to go. I would put them together and connect them, and I would flash them and do it on site. So it would be kind of a nice thing to do instead of, you have to crawl in the mud today. So I think it's interesting that there's probably some evolution. Our industry hasn't gained a lot of productivity in the last 100 years, so I think we're going to see businesses that start building houses more efficient and faster. And I think we know that we have the knowledge to make them last. It's as to whether we want them to.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen contractors make?
Yeah. I've seen people forget about the water heater in the furnace. People go, well, we replaced that 5 years ago, I think it's fine. Well, they have a water heater in the basement, and it drafts naturally just by aspiration of the increased temperature of the gas, right? It goes up the flue by itself. And there's a furnace that does the same thing. They tie the flues together. If I improve the tightness of the building, it's looking for combustion air, right? So if I make that tighter, it could actually spill it back down. What if I do a retrofit, I put in a new kitchen range hood, because we want one of those, I turn the fan on, which sucks the air out of the building and pulls the flue gases back down. Oh, one of the children's basements is downstairs, and put them at significant risk. So combustion safety, I think, is as paramount as almost anything. And we call the test for that worst case depressurization. And what you do is you turn on all the fans in the house, and you go downstairs and make sure the furnace and the water heater is venting. And you can do that by turning the thermostat on the furnace and turning on hot water in the water heater so it fires. Making sure that they properly vent. There's a little time it will spill. You should always reestablish draft. If you turn on the fans and the water heater keeps spilling in the basement, that's an important thing to remedy immediately. Or a person might say, well, I just replaced the water heater. Well, you're going to have to replace it with one that takes the gas out of the water and power vents it out the side to make sure it's safer. And that's a discussion I don't think many contractors have with the homeowner, because they might not understand that science, not because they don't care, but they not understand that it's important. But I would like people to know you have to watch that, because that's a risk.
Is it the responsibility of the contractor to educate the homeowner on what can happen? Let's say that you're doing insulation or replacing windows. I don't know that that's a conversation that is had very often.
I agree.
Is it the responsibility of the contractor, or is it the responsibility of the homeowner to do their research? I mean, is there culpability there, or is there,
It's a great question. I think that I'm doing homework to make sure that before I go to the doctor that I know what's going on. Well, I'm not going to tell them what to do, right? So I think that a contractor should have the knowledge and the experience to go in and sit with the homeowner and say, let's lay out the way that a remodel project goes, the things that are important, and from there we'll make decisions together. That, I think, is the right thing. But I would think it's also important that the homeowner does a little bit of research, goes online and says, what happens in a remodel? What are the risks? And there's plenty of information there. So there's a great combination between an informed contractor and an informed homeowner.
Yeah.
Discussions go better there. So I always encourage people to do their homework. They do that with medical, right? They say, before you go get a test, why don't you look it up? And it says, you probably shouldn't do this. And I go to the doctor, and go, I don't think I'm going to do this. So I think it's really important that we have a balance. But I would want the doctor to say the reason why it's important, and they explain it, and I would go, thank you, based on the knowledge I now have and from your professional opinion, I'll make that decision.
My best clients have already been through a remodel. They're educated in the remodel process.
That helps.
Those are my best clients.
Yeah, because they're not going to kill each other halfway through.
They,
So
and they
important.
understand what I'm saying too.
Right, absolutely.
And they understand what I'm trying to tell them is, yes, this is going to be a little more, but it could affect your health. You really do need to do, well, what is a whole house fan?
Mm-hmm.
Or why do I need this all connected together?
Yeah.
Well, this is the reason why.
And they have a reference of a previous job that they said,
Right.
yeah, remember
Right. Yeah.
when that happened to us. So I think that's really smart.
That's right. Great.
Great
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. That
Nice
was
to meet you.
awesome.
Thank you, sir.